questions in the chapter 7 student work. So open up your books, please, to the chapter 7 student work. Now, I chose not to grade this particular one, but you never know when I am going to grade it, so make sure that you are doing your work. Are we rolling?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. The numbers are going up? Okay. Okay, excellent. Thank you. I got it on there. So the first question says this. When Andrew and another disciple followed Jesus, they called him rabbi or teacher. What do you think they expected would happen in their time with Jesus? Yeah.
For Jesus to teach them something, maybe they thought he was like that.
Yeah, and really the only testimony they had at this point of Jesus was, "Behold, the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world." Right.
Right.
But they knew that he apparently was teaching, or he was some sort of teacher, or something like that. Call him rabbi, right? So a rabbi would be a teacher, would be one that teaches others. So I think you're exactly right. And actually, that's what it says right here. It appears that they recognized him as a teacher, so that they should recognize his authority to learn from him. So hoping they could learn something. Simon called Jesus Christ or Messiah. What or who did Simon and the Jews think the Messiah was? And there are two possible answers to this. So let's read those two answers. What? Like the king of Israel, right? So the prophesied Messiah was the king of Israel, and he was going to come. God was going to send him. But let's talk about the people specifically of Jesus' day. What did they, or who did they think Messiah was, or was? Yeah, they wanted a king. They wanted a political king, right? The king of Israel. They wanted a King David that would crash all their foes, and most especially the Romans. So that's what they were looking for. Is that what they got? No, and that's part of the reason why they crucified him. So they were looking for a political or military ruler that would restore David's kingdom to them. That was not the battle that Jesus was fighting. That was not the battle that God was winning. The battle was here in our hearts and in our lives. What do you think Philip meant when he told Nathanael that Jesus was the one about whom Moses and the prophets had written? Kind of alluded to this.
He was the Redeemer.
That he was the Redeemer, that he was the Messiah. He was the promised Messiah. He was the one that fulfilled all those prophecies. Hundreds and hundreds of prophecies. You're going to find out senior year what the probability is that one person throughout all of history could fulfill even just 7 of those prophecies. And it's crazy high. And there are dozens of prophecies that were written hundreds of years before Christ that he fulfilled. And in fact, if you took like 45, I think, and there are more than 45, we actually don't have a concept model for that because our brains can't.
Okay.
It's huge. It's beyond. It's like it's got like I can't remember how many zeros behind it. It's got like 21 zeros behind it or something like that. I mean, it's just huge. So they believed that he was Messiah, right? They believed that he was the one prophesied that would come. Imagine that you were Nathanael. How would you have felt when Jesus told that he had seen Nathanael under the fig tree? Yeah. How do you know that? So you guys know David Sproyer, right? Okay. So I've known David. Actually, I went to the hospital when he was born. His mother's been a friend of mine for a long, long time. But the first time we met, at least I thought it was the first time we were meeting, at a friend's house, and this is 24 years ago now. At a friend's house, we were going to watch a mutual friend's house. We were going to watch a football game, a Husker game, and she walked up to me and she said, "So where are you in the lineup of sisters?" That's a question that would only someone who knows that I have 3 sisters and no brothers would ask me, right? And I said, "I'm second, and how do you know me?" And the answer was that we went to the same church. She was several years behind me, so I was in high school. And my younger sister, Georgianne. By the way, her mother was also my 7th grade history teacher. And also her son-in-law's history teacher. That's a funny story. I won't tell it because we're recording. It was a very funny story that he came to pick her up for a date, and there was his 7th grade history teacher. Anyway, so it's like that. Like Mrs. Broyer came up to me and said, "Where are you in line of sisters?" What? Are you, are you a prophet? How do you know this? How do you know me? And I think Nathaniel would have been similarly surprised, right? How do you know who I am? Are those his?
Yeah.
Yeah. So give them back to him, please. Those are bad for your eyes since they're not yours. And then you need to sit up. Yeah, I think he would have been shocked. And he said, "You're the king of Israel," because Jesus knew that. And I think he also would have been. I mean, he knows what he said, right? Can anything good come out of Nazareth? That's my bad. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that, right? It would be. I mean, have you ever been in a situation where somebody found out something you said that you wish you wouldn't have said? Happens to me all the time. I think he probably would have felt a little bit of that. Technically, the answer in the book is the answer still there. Many Bible commentators believe Nathanael was meditating on the Old Testament and perhaps even on the Messiah when he was under the fig tree. It seems likely that Jesus saw him not with his eyes, but through his omniscience. How would Christ's omniscience have been less impressive to Nathanael than the heavenly vision described in verse 51? I don't know that that's a really important question and an important thing for you to know. So I'm just going to tell you what the book says. It appears that Jesus was telling Nathanael that he would learn about God personally in a way that would overwhelm his expectations. And I think that's true. I think he was just telling Nathanael, "You think that's amazing? Stick around." That reminds me of another story. Yeah. Maybe when we're done. Okay, here's the next thing we're going to do. So what questions, take out your study guides, what questions do you have? And I will go over more specifically what the test entails on tomorrow after the Peter quiz. But is there something on there that you have not completed that you haven't been able to find? Now, if you haven't completed stuff because you haven't completed stuff, I don't give free answers. But if you're stuck, I'll help you know where to find the answer. Yes.
I don't know the Levites and the Pharisees.
So for the people, yeah. So it's hard to know what about Peter,
Yeah,
right?
I kind of wanted to know that.
Use your quizzes. And by the way, a lot of you still have stuff in your folders. You need to get all of that out. I told you to do that on Friday because your quizzes are in there. So it'll be something that's from the quizzes. Okay? Yes.
3 and then.
Yeah, what does that say?
It says identify the connection between the word.
Yeah, so literally that word martyr means witness. Or witness means martyr. I think it's the other way around. Either way it works. Yeah.
Number 16, the concept is identify animal position.
Um, I don't know. I don't even think that's on the test. What? Yep, it's not on the test. You're not worried about that. Another question. No more questions? Okay, I'm looking at some fairly empty study guides, so you need to spend your time wisely. If you haven't finished your study guide, that's job number one. If you have, then work with each other, ask each other questions, or study together. Yes. Basically, when I say understand, I'm stating something that is true, and you need to know that that's true. It's hard to write study guide questions for like. Yes. Yeah, I think it's that Jesus was a thought in the mind of God before uh, before he was incarnated. But I'm also I also asked. There's a question about Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses denying the eternal preexistence of Christ as a person, which is, part of that as well. Does that make sense? So there are two questions that are related to that. Any other questions? Okay. You have the rest of the hour to study for your test, and then tomorrow we'll play the accuser quiz, and Wednesday you'll take the test.